nothing to do with him being a truck. It has nothing to do with him being an NFL player or the rings. You are a 3 o'clock brother out here working Radio Row, one of the only 4 shows, home of the Cowboys, joined by Mark Schlereth on 105.3 The Fan. You're right next to us in the morning, man.
Yeah.
Putting in the work, putting in the grind.
Yeah, always love coming out here. Love hooking up with you guys. Love talking to NFL. And I love talking about me. I am my favorite subject. And I've got a lot of Super Bowl records. You guys probably don't know about them, so I'm going to give these to you.
Please.
I think I'm the only guy ever to be on 3 of the top 19 Super Bowl teams in the history of the Super Bowl. I was on the 19th ranked team, the 97 Broncos, the 10th ranked team, the 98 Broncos, and the number 1 ranked Super Bowl team in history, the 91 Washington Redskins, the only team ever to be a top 5 offense, top 5 defense, and top 5 special teams. But it doesn't end there. I'm on the all Super Bowl team. And then on top of that, my number 1 scorigami is this. I'm the only guy in Super Bowl history, the only one in Super Bowl history to win the Super Bowl on his birthday, which the birthday corresponded with the number of the Super Bowl. So I won Super Bowl 32 on my 32nd birthday, and after that, you just quit celebrating birthdays. So, yeah.
That's by far the best one.
That is by far the best one.
Now, who ranked these Super Bowl teams?
This is the
that was ESPN last week.
This is the Aaron Schatz list.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that have ranked that Redskin team as the number 1 team in Super Bowl history.
Who was it that who was it that snapped that undefeated run in '91? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I do. It was at our place. It was the Cowboys.
The Dallas
Dallas Cowboys.
Alvin Harper halftime Hail Mary catch.
Yeah, I think that was the last. No, you guys won a couple Super Bowls after that, but you haven't won one in how many?
Yeah, it's been a minute. Here's a good scorigami for you. A good Broncos scorigami. We found this out. There have only been 3 scorigamis in the history of the Super Bowl. They are all Broncos losses.
Really?
All 3 of them.
Wow.
55-10 to the 49ers, 39-20 to the Giants, and then the 43-8 to the Seahawks.
Whew. Good thing I wasn't a part of any of those.
That's right.
They were ugly.
They had been reversed.
There's 2 really ugly ones in there. My gosh.
So we are sitting here with our annual tradition of talking about other teams. Is there a mess in Denver? How bad is it? Because we had our Sean Peyton white whale offseason where we're comparing Sean Peyton and Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones' dream. Let's focus on someone else's mess right now, if it's a mess in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things, I think, in Denver where you need a veteran coach. You need a guy to come in and kind of yank a knot in a few chains. And, it just, like, there's a lot of things. Like, you go in, and I call a game in Denver, and I go into the cafeteria, because you have your meeting room with the team and the coaches and everything right off the cafeteria. So you're in the cafeteria, and there are non-essential personnel eating lunch in the players' cafeteria. And that may not sound like a big deal, but it's a big deal. You can't roll in there with no shirt on and with there's secretaries and so Sean Payton comes in and instantly, if you're not essential, if you're not part of the coaching staff or the players, you don't get to eat in our cafeteria. You just get to come down here with all your business buddies from upstairs in the office with a couple of clients like we're zoo animals.
Right.
Like stuff like that matters, right? The culture of an organization matters. The culture of an organization, to me, it's like irrigation. Culture is not static. It is live. And irrigation, when you water things, and water will always follow the path of least resistance, and culture will do that as well. So it's got to be something that's been established, and it's got to be something that's been talked about. And one of the things I said about the Broncos over the last, since they won the Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 50, is that a lot of these kids think they're working hard. They think they're studying. They think they're preparing hard. They have no clue what that means. They have no clue what it means to prepare and to practice and do study at a championship level. And until you get somebody in there that really understands that and they can implement that and essentially they can lay down the law. Like I always say, there's 2 types of fear that are imperative in an organization. There's the biblical sense of fear, which means, when they say, hey, the fear of the Lord, that's not, oh, gosh, you're going to smite me. That is awesome reverence and respect. The other is you got to have straight up fear. That dude will cut me in a heartbeat, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I can't take the back staircase up to the owner's office and complain about it.
Yeah.
And I know as a player, man, we're children. Like, so if I know my head coach has been appointed but not empowered, what do I give a crap? Like, I don't care. Like, you cannot have your head coach finding out that you traded for Trey Lance when Trey Lance shows up in your locker room.
Right.
And there's a reason you don't win. There's a reason you don't win championships.
I was just everything that you just said. I wasn't going to take it to Jerry. Everything you said is what we feel like is kind of missing in Dallas, with a looseness, with whether it's McCarthy, Dan Quinn. I don't know. We're not in the building. You've been in the building, but when they play dumb and when there's stupid penalties and we have very little attention to detail in crucial killer moments, that's what I think of. Which I could be wrong when you talk about all that stuff, which is why I wanted like a hard ass to come in there and replace McCarthy, or whether it's Mike Zimmer on the defensive side or something like that. Does that all add up to you with the Cowboys?
Yeah, and like I always said, and I said this to my kid all the time, my son, when he was going into Major League Baseball, I go, talent is wasted on talented people. I'm not a big numbers guy, I'm not a big statistics guy or analytics guy. Like, math has never blocked anybody. Math has never made a tackle. I'm not into that. But I do have one scale that I created. It's called the BOO rating, B-O-O. That's balls over opponent. I want my team to have bigger balls than your team. And if you have bigger balls, then there's a great chance you're going to win. I don't care about the talent. I want dudes that are professional. I want guys, just because you play a pro sport doesn't make you professional. I want professionals. I want guys that are committed, and that to me is what wins.
Mark Schlereth join us here, 105 through the Fan. All right, so there was a situation this year with Coach Peyton and Russ on the sideline.
Yeah.
What did y'all make of that? They got into it. Like, Sean, laid.
Sean got into it.
Was it the Indy game? Was it the Indy game?
I don't know what it was.
Detroit.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Detroit game. He got into it.
Yeah.
Like, how did that go over? Because, in today's athlete, you might lose a locker room.
Yeah, that's who Sean is that way.
Yeah.
And, it's the way I've always been coached. And I thought Russell Wilson cried on the inside a little bit like a karate man. And so it made me feel really good because that's the way I was coached my whole life.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. And I think that's probably where their personalities clash to a degree. And ultimately, Russ, there's a lot of things that Russ doesn't do well. And I think that is a situation where it really frustrates Sean Payton. You've got to be able to throw with anticipation. You got to be able to throw guys open. You got to be able to get through a route progression. And you can't just take sacks. You can't just bail out of a pocket that's clean because you think you're going to make a bigger play somewhere else. And, it's interesting. I was talking to Bruce Arians when he was coaching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Byron Leftwich. I said, what's the most amazing thing about coaching Tom Brady? And he said, if the first read in the progression is you're running curl flat, for instance, first read in the progression is the flat route. If it's open, Tom Brady will take it 100 out of 100 times without ever getting bored. And he'll put you in second down and 6-. And you're on schedule. And now your whole playbook is open. When you have a 3-step drop and you decide to bail out of the back of the pocket when the offensive tackle is set and short, and you take a sack for 7 yards and you're second down 17, you're an idiot. You're horrible. And that stuff pisses me off just talking about it, and it pisses Sean off, and it makes the offensive line look bad. And, you are trying to play a game where you should be on schedule. I always call it 70-30 rule to me. 70% of the time we need to be on schedule. 30% of the time crap breaks down. And you got to go make a play, that's all right. But when you go off schedule without a reason for going off schedule, that puts us behind the 8 ball. And that's a horrible position to be in. And if you look at Russ over the course of his career, I guarantee you, when you assess sacks and whose fault it was, I guarantee you 40+% of the sacks that the Seahawks and the Broncos have given up were attributed to Russell Wilson. And that's not good enough. You're giving up 45 sacks a year in your offensive line. Everybody's talking about how bad they are. My ass. Your quarterback is bad. And those are the things that happen.
You used to work for our good buddy Armin Williams.
Yeah.
Crushing it in Denver. When you talk like this, and I have a feeling I know your answer, what type of feedback do you get from the team, the players, when you keep it real like this? Good or bad, mostly bad feedback.
I don't care.
I knew that.
And I can back it up with film, and I'm a junkie. I watch a ton of film, and you can be mad at me for it. That's your prerogative, but as I always say, the truth hurts, and so I just look at it from that standpoint. As I just it's honest, and here's the thing about me: like a lot of guys that are studio guys will say a lot of things that are outrageous that really don't have a lot of factual backing to it.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to face anybody. I have to walk into an organization. I ripped Washington for how they were calling plays, the way they were executing their plays, the lack of run game, and the next day I walked in, or the next 3 days later, I walked into that facility, and I got some side eyes from some guys, and I'm like, come get a taste.
Right.
Like, we go watch the film. You guys suck.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to point it out. And so, and their offensive line coach actually pulled me aside.
And this was under what?
This was just last year.
Oh, last year.
Yeah. And, they pulled me aside, and I said, hey, dude, like, it's not my job to sugarcoat it. Like, I like you, but you guys are awful right now. And it's just stuff like that. But, yeah, there's an integrity to doing what I do, and I don't make it up, and I'm not trying to. The truth is sensational enough, right? I don't try to sensationalize anything. I'm just telling you, what the film tells me.
What analysts, broadcasters, X's and O's guys do you like on TV?
There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys that
or
I
social
like.
Media.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. I like Orlovsky.
There you go, Bobby.
I like Dan, but there's some things. There's some things from a quarterback's perspective that I just don't buy. So there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys. I actually love Romo at the end of a half or at the end of a game because I think he's great. And where I'm not great at the clock man because I just give me a play and give me a chance to diagnose a defense, right? So that wasn't my world. And so I really tune into Romo at the end of halves, and I'll go back and just listen to his end of the half and end of the fourth quarter because he's great at that stuff. So there's a lot of guys that I pick up bits and pieces from. But ultimately, you're very myopic in your view of what you played, the position you played. I always say you kind of watch the game through a straw hole. And it's important to expand your horizons and kind of get a better global perspective of the game, something I try to do all the time. But, I respect a lot of guys. I just know this. It's not easy. Playing is not easy, and I understand that. And so I try to celebrate the game as much as I possibly can celebrate the game.
I'm curious, when we talked earlier about, toughness, physicality, penalties, all these sorts of things. Here in Dallas, right after the Cowboys lost, we were talking a lot about, Mike McCarthy, you didn't have them prepared. Mike McCarthy, you didn't do this. Mike McCarthy did.
Yeah.
What do you think when it comes to those sorts of topics? Toughness, penalties, attention to detail. What do you think falls on the players to prepare themselves for rather than just, hey, you cannot put that on the coach? Those are the types of things that players have to have that accountability with each other.
Well, they do, and you have to have that kind of connection with the guys that you play with, that it's so important to you not to let them down. Part of it's coaching. You just can't parse it out and go, okay, he gets X amount of the blame and he gets X amount of the blame. It's one of those things, you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. And so it's got to be emphasized. It's got to be, accepted. But your players ultimately are the guys who go out on the football field and have to execute, right? And so it's your job. I mean, nobody has ever paid a ticket to go watch a coach stand around his ass off on the sideline. Nobody. It's our team. And until you get that mentality of this is our team and they come to see us play, and it's our responsibility to digest what we've been coached to do and go out and execute and do it with intelligence and toughness, not only physicality, But it takes toughness to walk away from a penalty when you want to haul off and knock a guy out. It takes toughness to go, all right, I'm going to catalog that, and I'm going to get you in the 7 seconds I can get you, and there will be retribution. In my day, there was a lot of frontier justice that went on, and you had to be smart enough to go, I'll get him back. It may be 5 plays from now, but you'll get yours. And so, that's part of the game that I think that's on the players to go out and execute that.
We're talking with Mark Schlereth here. On that same subject, sort of, I mean, everybody obviously talks about head coach and the coaching staff. What they do Monday through Saturday is so big to the actual game plan and then execution on Sunday. With execution being a big part, where do you think the head coach is most felt on game day? Is it in the game management, the clock management? Is that the stuff where we're more going to go, hey, that's something that the coach has to be on top of?
Yeah, you got to be on game management, and I think analytics have ruined game management, because I think so many guys now have somebody in their ear saying, hey, if we get into a 4th down and 4- situation, we got to go for it here. Well, you know what? Like, all of a sudden we're in 4th down and 4-. We haven't blocked the 3 technique all game long. What makes you think you're going to block them on 4th down now?
Right.
But the analytics, the analytics guys don't know. Like, I had a coaching staff tell me, the analytic guy came down and said, hey, man, we're averaging a yard 0.2 more per carry running to the left than we are to the right. So we need to sit down and get 65% of our runs to the left-hand side. To go, well, Aaron Donald lines up over there, dumbass. So guess what? We're going to run away from him. Thanks. Appreciate you, right? So you get somebody in your ear telling you, we got to do this, we got to do that. Hey, listen, Dan Campbell, and I love Dan. Dan goes for it all the time, right? So, but that's not an excuse to go, well, he went for it all the time. Let's go for it on, well, this is the NFC Championship. There's 7 minutes and 3 seconds left, and you got a 4th down and 2, 46-yard field goal, kick it, make it a 3-score game, because what does that do for you? Like, okay, let me give you a couple scenarios, what that does for you from a game management standpoint. One, all right, we kick it, now we kick off. So we kick the field goal, guess what we do? We go to a TV timeout. Okay, we come back, we kick off. You know what we do? We go back to a TV timeout. That's how TV works. So now all of a sudden, you don't actually effectively touch the ball for however long that drive was. You're sitting out. Now you got 2 TV timeouts. It's another 4 minutes. You haven't touched the ball in 9 minutes as an offense, right? You're cool. And now there's a lack of momentum because you don't have the excitement of just stopping a 4th down and 2. And guess what? All right, you not only not have that momentum, but now now we're down 17, not just 14. So now what do? Well, we really can't run the ball. We got to throw it every down here. And it takes you out of that rhythm. So kicking a field goal there was stupid. It was stupid. But that's where analytics has ruined the game. That's why I hate people that like math. I've always hated them. And I hate statisticians and nerds.
Do you want your
math nerds
coach calling plays? Like your head coach?
No. I would rather.
Mike called him, though, right? With you guys. And Joe.
Mike called them until a game in Seattle where nothing was working. He gave it over to Gary Kubiak. There are some guys that can do it. I just think that there are a few guys that do it and do it really well. But I think the majority guys can't manage the game and call plays at the same time, or manage the game well and call plays well. And I think the other thing is you lose connectivity with your defense. All of a sudden your defense comes off the field and they do a great job, and you're not over there going, hey, man, great job, whatever, or, hey, we need to do something with your defensive coordinator because you know what? You're looking at your play sheet.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about what my next series is going to be and how I'm going to set something up. And so I think you lose a little connectivity with your team.
Mark Schlereth, NFL on Fox, former NFL player, of course, Low T Center here on the Fan. Everything you're just talking about, managing all that stuff, I think of Belichick. Do you think it's a shame, or you understand why Bill Belichick is not employed?
Well, no, I understand. I also think I think there's a certain amount of silliness to it. Like, in today's NFL, there's a couple of things. You're an offensive play caller that's young. That's like Viagra to 80-year-old owners. They can't get enough of that, right? So they think that. But the misnomer is that only young people can communicate with young people. That's just so stupid. Most young people I know can't communicate a lick because they've grown up just sending emojis. Like that's their form of communication. So can I sit here and have a conversation with you, and can I develop a relationship with you in that conversation?
Right.
And you don't have to be young. If you can communicate, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you can communicate, you can communicate.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there is this misnomer that you've got to be young to connect with young players. That to me is stupid. It's just there's a lack of real understanding there.
So in trying to replace Dan Quinn, right, give us your perspective or quick hits on some of the following guys, or if you have an opinion on who the best DC could be between Rex Ryan, Mike Zimmer, Ron Rivera, and these
Wink.
guys. Who's that?
Wink.
And Wink Martindale.
Yeah. Well, now, like Zim, if you want something that is gap sound and a really sound, defensive philosophy, then Zim's your guy, right? Not flashy, but incredibly sound. If you want hell bent for election, hair on fire, Wink Martindale is your guy, because his philosophy is I'm going to heat you up on every single play, and ultimately you're going to make some plays on us. But if we give up 4, we're going to make 8, and we're going to come out with a win. And I love Wink. Wink's my guy because he is that dude just does not give a crap. And I love that. And it just depends on kind of what your philosophical approach is. But you guys have such unbelievable talent. He'd be a ton of fun, like a ton of fun.
And then last thing before we let you go, in this DC search, a lot of our listeners and the trends in the league, we're all focused on who matches up best against these Shanahan tree offenses that kick the Cowboys' ass and humiliate them. Obviously, we talked about Mike. Did you know that Kyle was going to be the man? And what do you think of this trend, at least in Dallas, of we got to figure out who can stop the Shanahan tree?
Yeah, I am when Eric Mangini left New England and he left the Jets. When he came to work for ESPN, when I was working at ESPN, he cornered me in a hallway with a grease board, and we did a 2-hour tutorial on the zone blocking scheme. And so there's a lot of people who struggle with that, right? And all the scheme off of that. It's incredibly successful. It's why Mike should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's like that is the route that 60% of the teams right now run. And so, yeah, Kyle is next level. His ability, his dad was the same way. So playing for Mike would tell you, here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to execute it. And on top of that, let me tell you why it's going to benefit you. And he'd say something like, hey, we're going to run this play. We're going to run it 6 times. It's not worth a crap. We're going to average 2 yards a carry. But if you sell out on this play, like Debo, you're going to get an explosive. Kittle, you're going to get explosive. Juszczyk, you're going to get explosive. And of those 3 explosives, and oh, by the way, and McCaffrey, you're going to get 1. And oh, by the way, on those explosives, 2 of you are going to score touchdowns. I have seen his dad say, this is exactly what's going to happen. We're going to run this play coming out of the break. We're running this play. This is what's going to happen. This is going to line up. We're going to score a touchdown. And sure as I'm sitting here, boom, it's exactly what happens. Kyle does it all the time.
Wow.
All the time. And when you have a coach that puts you in a position like that for success, and you understand, if I do my job, this is the benefit to me, and then you execute it and you watch it roll out and go exactly the way he says it's going to go, then every time that guy calls a play, you're like, oh, yeah, we're on to something. Or, oh, yeah, this guy's diabolical, right? And that's that Shanahan tree, and they are great at it.
Not only our 3 a.m. bro out here in Vegas, but my Low T Center brother as well. Tell our Tolos why they should get their numbers checked, Mark.
Yeah, well, it's incredibly important. Obviously, as a player, most of us, once we're done, our testosterone levels go way down, and a lot of head trauma and those type of things. So that's an important aspect of it. But I'll tell you, one of the things it did for me is going in for weekly visits, getting my blood pressure checked, doing my blood, every 3 months or so. I came in one day, and my heart rate's always in the 60s, and I came in one day, it was 99, and I discovered I had AFib.
Oh.
And it was because I'd never known that. You're 5 times more likely to have a stroke if you have AFib. And I went on this journey where I ended up having heart surgery in the whole 9 yards. But I wouldn't have known had it not been for my weekly visits at LVIII. So they were like, hey, something's wrong here. You need to go see your physician. Did set up my appointments and discovered the issue I was having. But that was just through a weekly visit. And you know, somehow along the line, I developed AFib and ended up having to have it addressed, but I wouldn't have known had I not known my numbers, had I not got my weekly checkup. So debt of gratitude for my guys at LVIII.
Best guest of the week.
Yep.
I knew you would be. You are every year. Thank you so much for sitting down with us, man. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Mark Schlereth on 3 of the top 20 teams of all time that would have all lost to the 92 and 93 Cowboys.